Remember.
See you in the future. You mean the past?
Exactly. It doesn't matter. It's in the past.
Okay. Sherman, set the Wayback Machine for...
1885!
1975.
1984.
The latter half of the 20th century.
What's that from, the 80s?
That's probably in the 70s.
Good morning, MegaPodlings. It's Crazy Joe.
This is Jacob.
And it's time for RETROPODTASTIC, the RETROPODTASTIC where we look back on something old, something that we've loved in the past, or something that maybe it's from the past that we haven't seen. And today we've got a RETROPODTASTIC for you. And this is one of those cases where it's one of my favorite movies, and it's one that Jacob has never seen before. Until now. So we're going to talk about The Breakfast Club. Dun, dun, hey, 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 hey. Ooh. Not only one of my favorite 80s teen films, my favorite John Hughes movie, and I have some serious love for this movie. Okay, first of all, I guess, where do we start? You had never seen The Breakfast Club. What did you know about The Breakfast Club going into it?
A lot. We shared a story off air about the song that was very famous and probably made famous by this film, the cultural impact of the film, it being one of the, if not the big, it's probably not the biggest hit of the 80s, but it's a huge 80s film, right?
Oh,
I mean, you got like Back to the Future and Breakfast Club and probably some of the horror franchises because they were they grew so large. But just the cultural impact of the film, and I'd kind of heard of some of the cast. I mean, I tell you, I've seen it's not a spoiler because we're talking about it. The last 3 seconds of the film I'd seen probably 10 times. I believe the movie Pitch Perfect references that ending specifically. And
are we talking?
Yes, yeah. White power.
And Bumblebee does it at the end of the Bumblebee.
I haven't seen Bumblebee yet, but yeah, I mean, I'd probably seen that 3 times because other movies just happened to show that part of the movie. So I had preconceived notions of the film, obviously, going in. It took probably 10 minutes of the film for me to realize, like, okay, just enjoy the film for what it is because it's never going to reach the bar that everybody else put it to. You know what I mean? Like, it's the greatest thing of all time. Okay, let's be realistic here. So yeah, it a lot. Its reputation precedes it.
All right. So now that you've seen it, did you like it?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I said, it took me, and I'm sure that was probably just getting used to the characters, but I think it took me like 20 minutes, 30 minutes before I was really like, okay, I can dig this, because it's that awkward phase, and it's supposed to because it's a bunch of, random teenage kids that have nothing in common just kind of shoved into one space. But yeah, after a while, I started really digging it.
So to those who don't know, but if you're watching this video, I'm going to go on a limb and assume you probably know what The Breakfast Club is. It's a 1985 movie by John Hughes. John Hughes was very big for the teen film in the 80s. Also gave us Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Weird Science. And this movie's about 5 kids from different cliques who bond on a Saturday afternoon in Saturday detention. And I think it really holds up. A friend of mine said, well, it kind of doesn't hold up because some of the things they're in detention for, in today's society, you wouldn't get a detention. For example, kid brings a gun to school, he's getting expelled and the police are getting called. He's not getting a Saturday detention. But other than that, if you just take the time, take what got them there out of the picture and just say, what if the nerdy kid, the jock, and what if these guys, like, I think the movie still resonates.
Absolutely. I tell you, there's a lot of it. The Emilio Estevez, I can't remember his character. I've only seen it one time. What's Emilio Estevez's character's name?
Andrew.
What Andrew even got in trouble for, that's bullying, and that would be a huge deal now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact I mean, my wife and I both. My wife had seen this before. We watched it together actually Sunday night. When we were listening to it, it took us twice before I realized, like, oh, Saturday detention. Like, they have to be here on a Saturday. I'd never heard of that. You know, that's not a thing nowadays, or even back when I was in school, which wasn't that long ago. But so yeah, I mean, obviously a few things don't hold up, but you get you understand. You know, it could be as simple as, you know, texting. Well, I guess texting wouldn't be something nowadays, but something you get in trouble with nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did have Saturday detentions when I was in high school, which was the early 90s. There were Saturday detentions. I don't think I ever had a Saturday detention, but then again, I pretty much stayed out of trouble. I very rarely, I think I could probably count on one hand the number of times I was even in detention. But I don't think I ever.
Taped someone's ass cheeks together.
I never taped someone's ass cheeks together. I never brought a flare gun. No,
Well,
well, outside of school, you know, that's a typical Saturday night for me.
Yeah, yeah. You got siblings, you know how it is.
Exactly. Now, here's something that really surprised me. I remember when I was in high school. For a while, I went to an all-boys Catholic school for my, you know, freshman year. I wasn't there all through high school, but my freshman year, I was at an all-boys Catholic school. And this movie aired on television one night. And pretty much everyone in my class watched it. And the next day we were all talking about The Breakfast Club because it had been on TV the night before. And my teacher said, "Who was your favorite character?" And I believe every single person in the school, in the class, with the exception of me and one other guy, there were two dissenters. Everybody named the same character. I'm gonna ask you now, who is your favorite character in the movie?
Andrew.
Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
Interesting. That was the answer everyone in my class gave, except me and one other guy. And I was shocked because I'm like, really? Like, to me, it was very much a toss-up between Brian or Bender.
Yeah, Brian was the second. I dug his character. The flare gun thing is hilarious, by the way. Hilarious. And I even love the foreshadowing of when they're first doing the credits in the first part of the movie, you see the burnt, I think they're probably burnt gym clothes on the floor and everything from the flare gun going off in the locker. But yeah, no, that was, I'd say Bender would be my least favorite character personally, but.
I mean, he's not the guy I'd want to hang out with. He's
absolutely
not someone,
right.
But in the movie, I enjoyed watching him. And I don't know, he's got some, I think Bender has probably all my favorite lines in the movie. You know, does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe? He gets up. We're all going to get up, you know? So I don't know. I really enjoy Bender.
I liked the line. I can't quote it because I've only seen it once, but about, he asked him, where's his weed? And he's like, they're in Johnson's shorts or Johnson's pants. Hilarious. It's so good.
In retrospect, watching this again as an adult, my favorite character has changed, though. It's not Brian or Bender anymore. It's now Allison. I get the biggest kick in rewatches out of Allison. Ali Sheedy just plays the role. She rarely speaks early on in the movie. She doesn't have like any dialogue. It's just, you know, facial tics and reacting to people. But she's hysterical. Like, I remember the one scene where they went and got the weed out of Bender's locker, and Brian turns to her and says, "Do you approve of this?" Just her deadpan stare when he says, "Do you approve of this?" I don't know. I think she's in retrospect my favorite character. But yeah, I have some serious love of this movie.
I have some serious love for, I guess serious love isn't the good term, but Ali Sheedy. You and I have both talked about our love for the Short Circuit films.
Oh,
so
yeah,
my
yeah.
first exposure to Ali Sheedy was in the first Short Circuit, which I would assume probably came out at least 10 years after Breakfast Club, correct?
I think maybe
It's a
1
90s
year.
movie?
I think it was 1 year. 1 year. I believe
Really?
Breakfast Club was 85. I believe Short Circuit was 86. Let me double check.
Oh,
Short
that might be
Circuit 2 was 1988. That you can take to the bank.
Okay,
I know that
fair
for
enough.
a fact.
So it probably was 2 years. I was thinking it was 90s, probably 'cause I watched it in the
1986. Yeah, Short Circuit was 1986. So one year later.
Isn't that wild? She went from playing a teenager to, I believe she's supposed to be in her like mid-20s in that movie.
Well, let's be honest. I don't think any of these characters were teenagers in 1985. They were all playing young, you know?
You know what's wild is right after we watched Breakfast Club, my wife, she saw the suggestion, and the suggestion was 16 Candles. And I had never watched it. We still had 2 hours before the kiddo needed to go to bed. So we watched 16 Candles. And I believe it's Brian Michael Hall. Is that his full name?
Anthony Michael Hall.
I'm sorry. I don't know where I got Brian. His character in 16 Candles, which I believe is only 1 year before, right?
Was it a year before?
I
I think
Right.
you're right. I think you're right. I think it's 1984, 16 Candles.
But either way, he looks like a teenager in that, and then you see him in Breakfast Club, and he looks like he's in his 20s. Like the age difference, and I'm sure the movies take longer to film and everything than nowadays. But yeah, so that's hilarious. I don't doubt the Ali Sheedy thing for a minute. But I'd always grown up with her because I watched Short Circuit so young, growing up with her in that role. So the second she was on camera, I recognized her immediately. So I was paying attention to her the whole movie. Just because of my love and my fondness for the first Short Circuit. I love the second one too, but that's the soundtrack's fault.
You don't want me to drop that in here now? The theme from Short Circuit 2? Oh boy, yeah. So this movie is. What did you think of Principal Vernon? I mean, he kind of.
I had seen that guy in probably 10 other things, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was that I recognized him from.
Die Hard. Could have been Die Hard.
It was either Die Hard or he was in, I'm sure, a plethora of sitcoms.
Trading Places. He was in.
That's what it was. He was the monkey,
No.
right? He ended up being the monkey.
He had the line, "No more goddamn jerky beef."
Are you sure he's not the one at the end with the monkey in the cages?
No. I think they put him in there, didn't they?
Yeah. He ends up.
It was originally Jim Belushi. Jim Belushi was in the ape costume.
But they trick him into and then the male monkey. They tape his mouth closed so the male monkey goes to town.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. That's what I recognized him from.
He also was the FBI agent that they called in Die Hard when the FBI came in and took over.
Yeah.
So that I met him. He was a really, really nice guy. I met him. He reprised his role as Principal Vernon in Not Another Teen Movie. He I don't know if you ever saw Not Another Teen Movie, but he basically plays Principal Vernon again, and they do the scene where Bender keeps getting the detentions. They do that over in Not Another Teen Movie, and
that makes a lot of sense now.
It was the day after the trailer dropped for Not Another Teen Movie, and I had been at the movies, and then the next day I was at this convention and met Paul Gleason, and we were told him, we're like, we saw you in the trailer last night. He couldn't have been nicer. He was like just the sweetest guy. He was talking to us for a really long time. He passed away several years ago, but he was a really nice actor. And it's funny because Paul Gleason is the actor. Nice guy. Principal Vernon, what an a-hole. Like that scene where he's like threatening Bender and he's like, who's going to believe you? I'm a swell guy. He's like just the creepiest principal around,
Yeah. He definitely played the protagonist well. It's Not Another Teen Movie. Is that Chris Evans? Is that the movie I'm thinking of?
Chris Evans, yes.
He has a framed picture of himself, and then him and his sister end up having sex.
Yeah, that.
I have seen that, and now that film makes that scene makes even more sense. See what I mean about? I had watched so much of this movie, or heard about this movie without actually seeing the movie. The movie is such a huge deal in pop culture that you almost don't need to. They filled in the dots for you. It's like breadcrumbs. Another example.
We know a guy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go
You're
on.
fine. I was just going to mention another example. I just talked to a friend today, Rick from Down to Movie. I was talking to him on my way home. I've never seen, and hopefully this doesn't get YouTube hate. Direct all your comments at me. I've never seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which A is another John Hughes film, but B I think is even more in pop culture between commercials and the Family Guy references. There's so many references to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and there's scenes borrowed and direct scenes, quote unquote, stolen. That you almost don't, what happens in the movie without watching the movie. That's how ingrained in pop culture they are. It's wild. But go ahead.
Absolutely. Oh man, I forgot what I was going to say actually. Just then.
we were talking about. I don't even know what we were talking about.
Mhm.
I tell you, while you're thinking, one thing I did like about this movie was just how quickly it gets dark. Now that sounds bad because I didn't particularly like the dark elements of the film, but man, just like at the drop of a dime, they went from normal casual teenage conversations to like I was gonna kill myself because I got a B, or no, he gets an F, which moves his grade point average down to a B, and his dad straight up beats him, and then he goes into the acting of it, and there's several scenes where it's happy-go-lucky, and then they go dark really fast, and I liked that because that's how it can work. People can be joking around, and people get their feelings hurt really quickly, or it gets too real really quickly with people maybe you don't want it to be too real with. And I thought that was really cool, and that does hold up because, unfortunately, stuff like that still happens nowadays.
Absolutely. Now, what I was going to say, and I'd forgotten, we know a guy, we have a particular viewer who has made the claim that this film is not very culturally relevant. I believe the exact wording was Mean Girls is a more culturally relevant film than The Breakfast Club. Now, I can say whatever I'm going to say because I grew up with The Breakfast Club. I've seen it for years. But as someone who does not have that emotional attachment to it and has just seen it for the first time, which film would you say is more culturally relevant?
Breakfast Club. Now, it's probably not it's probably not as far away as you think. I think Mean Girls and Breakfast, it's stupid and it's weird to compare them. It's closer than you think nowadays.
I always said if you,
Mean Girls it's right there. It's weird, but it is.
No, I haven't seen Mean Girls. But based on what I know of Mean Girls, based on my knowledge of the film, I think a more apt comparison would be Mean Girls and Heathers. I think Mean Girls looks more like a film like Heathers than The Breakfast Club.
I haven't seen Heathers, and I'm sure some of it's just an age gap thing. I mean, you said you were in high school in the 80s?
Yeah.
Or I guess the 90s. I was in high school shortly after Mean Girls came out. That's just kind of how it works. They kind of pick up on what's culturally relevant. Either it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Either it's culturally relevant because they're doing something kids are doing in high school, or kids start doing it in high school because they see it in a movie about kids doing that in high school. That's kind of how it works. So I think comparing it is like comparing you to I, because there's a bit of an age gap there. So I don't think it holds weight as much as you might think.
Well, I'm going to show off right now in the power of post editing. I'm going to pop in here. I'm going to pop in a movie poster that I have been getting signed over the years. It's a Breakfast Club movie poster. As the image you see here, it is now autographed by Ali Sheedy, Anthony Michael Hall, and Emilio Estevez. I actually don't have the poster in my person right now because I sent it off via the mail for Molly Ringwald to sign it as well. So when I get it back, it will have Molly Ringwald's signature on it. So once that happens, Judd Nelson's the only guy I need left to sign that poster.
It's fantastic. I dug what you were doing because we've been talking about this poster for like 6 months now.
Yeah.
In and out of the mail service, but now that I've seen the film, I can appreciate it a little more. And I want to take two topics off of what you just mentioned. First, do you want to know what my favorite scene of the whole movie was?
Yes.
It wasn't my favorite scene because it was anything extraordinarily dirty. It was because I think this is how high schoolers still act or feel, and something I would have done. The scene when Bender sneaks back in and he is under the desk and Molly Ringwald just happens to be wearing what I would assume was a skirt or a dress, and then you kind of see his head like lean forward, and I was like, that's such a high schooler thing to do, and it's innocent because he doesn't know quite the results of it as, or the Me Too movement and stuff nowadays. You wouldn't be able to do that nowadays, but when I was in high school, that's probably something I would have, had I been in the same situation. It's high school in a T, which is why I think this movie did as well as it did.
Yeah, it's very real. It still feels real.
Exactly. Yeah, because I'm sure that's still an issue today. In fact, I know it's still an issue today. And the second thing was as standout as he was in this movie, John Bender. Did the actor do anything after this? I couldn't tell you his name. I know him as John Bender now, but
Well, he went on most of the cast of a lot of the cast of the Breakfast Club, not all of them, but a lot of them went on to star in the movie St. Elmo's Fire, which came out either later that year or the next year. And I actually, you're a bit younger than me, so I'm not sure if you know this phrase. St. Elmo's Fire was the same year. So Judd Nelson is also in St. Elmo's Fire.
That's his name.
He's done a few other movies, but the cast of The Breakfast Club and the cast of St. Elmo's Fire had a nickname applied to them in the 80s. I don't know. Do you know their nickname?
I saw it in a Wikipedia article because I looked up the movie after I watched it. It was like wasn't the Rat Pack, but it was like the Brat Pack.
The Brat Pack.
There we go.
They were known as the Brat Pack, and the Brat Pack is the cast of Breakfast Club and the cast of St. Elmo's Fire, of which there are crossovers such as John Bender, Emilio Estevez. No, I call him John Bender. Judd Nelson, Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy. And then it also includes Demi Moore, Andrew McCarthy, Rob Lowe, and some of the people who were in the St. Elmo's Fire but weren't in the Breakfast Club. So collectively, they were the Brat Pack. Judd Nelson he's sort of turned into one of those character actors who you see pop up every now and then. He had a couple more movies in the 80s. Like he did a movie that I know I saw, but I don't really remember it. But he did a movie called Making the Grade, where, oh man, what was the story of Making the Grade? Oh, that was a year earlier. That was 1984. But yeah, he starred in this movie called Making the Grade. A young man hires, I believe it's someone hires someone to go to school for them. I think that's the story. I think like Judd Nelson is hired someone, a rich guy doesn't want to go to school, so he hires Judd Nelson to go to school and basically say he's him. So he goes, and that way I think that was his. So he did that, but that was a year before. He had a small appearance in the DC Comics movie Steel, starring Shaquille O'Neal. He was one of the characters in that, and he's also probably to my generation, very well known as the voice of Hot Rod in Transformers the movie, the animated movie from 1986. So yeah, he did some things.
But nothing gigantic, right? You would assume with this movie he would be because it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just speculating. It sounds like almost Emilio Estevez was your breakout star.
Oh, I'd say so. And actually, don't underestimate Anthony Michael Hall. Anthony Michael Hall was huge because he went on to do Weird Science, and then he became a cast member on Saturday Night Live after that. And
he's still in a bunch of. He was just in the Goldbergs a season ago, maybe 2 seasons.
Yeah,
ago?
I think he still appeared this season. He's one of the teachers. Yeah.
Yep.
And. We don't see much of Ali Sheedy anymore. Ali Sheedy has kind of dropped off. Molly Ringwald, she'll pop up on shows like when they need like that 80s guest star. It's like,
of course, right. It's
like, ooh, it's an 80s superstar. And, Molly Ringwald had a cameo appearance in Not Another Teen Movie as the woman who worked at the airline at the end, like when they were.
Oh, no way. So, I'm going to have to rewatch that. The movie's not good, by the way. Not Another Teen Movie is one of those, but that's that genre. The genre you don't expect perfection. It's kind of like.
I actually got to disagree. I think that one's pretty good.
Geez.
Like I think that genre as a whole is pretty terrible.
There you go. Okay.
But I think the films. I think that one's a cut above the ones that followed it. Like thought that.
Does he have whipped cream crotch? Is that Not Another Teen Movie?
I think it was.
He got whipped cream on his.
We were just talking. A couple of my podcasting friends and I were talking the other day about the one girl in Not Another Teen Movie. You remember we had Nutty Nuchas? We had her as a guest once. I was talking to her and her boyfriend, co-host Tech. We were talking about not another teen movie. The girl who wanted someone to take a dump on her chest. She's like, how come nobody ever takes a dump on my chest? She plays Spock's mom now on Star Trek. So I'm like, yeah. There you go.
Doesn't age well. Yeah, Captain America's running around with whipped cream pasties.
Absolutely.
So I mean, and to be fair, back to the Emilio Estevez, he's still making stuff every Friday now with the Mighty Duck series, which we've talked about on the podcast.
But even he disappeared for a long time, though. I think he was doing a lot of work like directing and producing. Like I think he went behind the scenes, but I actually thought he had retired from acting. I'm like, oh, Emilio Estevez doesn't act anymore. And then boom, Disney backed the money truck up, and now he's... Yeah, by the way, last Friday I kept saying I was spending the night with Emilio Estevez because I watched the new episode of Mighty Ducks. And then as soon as that was over, I popped in The Breakfast Club. So.
Does not age well, does he? Time was not his friend. Although...
Oh, it's been better to him than
to his brother.
It's been better to him than it's been to me. He's got all his hair.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Back to Money Truck. I know he had some appearances on like 2.5 Men, but nothing like significant, I'd say. I'm sure the only reason he did that show was, as a favor. We're tangenting, which is what we're famous for. So
yeah, but there we go. I guess we've said all there is to say about the Breakfast Club, then, haven't we? Or have we? I think we have.
Yeah, I'm glad that. I don't know whose suggestion it was, yours or mine, but I'm glad it's something I've watched. I can knock it off my watch list, but now it's... Because I've always understood the references, but now it's like, okay, yeah, I've seen The Breakfast Club. And it's something I'd rewatch. It's not going to be like a Blues Brothers, where I watched it to watch it, and I was like, I didn't get it. Not for me.
So do you keep the Blu-ray? Do you keep the Blu-ray in your collection, or does it get...
I watched it physically, so if I were to find the Blu-ray, yes, I would keep it.
Okay, all right.
It's probably not. It's not a seek out the Criterion because those are high end Blu-rays. You know what I mean?
This is the Criterion, by the way.
That's why I said that. It's not something I'd seek out the Criterion, but I believe there's like John Hughes multi-packs. I'd probably snake it in that. It would make the shelf, yes. If
you want, I've got my old Universal copy sitting over there because I replaced it with the Criterion. I'll mail it out to you if you want them. If you want a physical copy.
Sure.
Let's end it with one thing. Let's wrap this discussion of the Breakfast Club up here. Brian says, "What happens on Monday? Are we friends now, or what happens?" And Claire says, "I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this is one time, and on Monday I probably don't talk to you anymore." So. I'm going to ask you what you think, and then I'll tell you what the director thought. What do you think happens on Monday? Have these people grown? Have they changed? Are they friends on Monday, or what do you think?
I think there's at least two pairs of them that'll probably still get along on Monday. I don't know if all 5 of them are going to collectively walk down the hallway together, but I don't think they go back to being 5 individuals anymore. You know what I mean?
John Hughes has said that he thinks it probably went the way Claire suggested it would, because the studio inquired about a sequel, and he said, "I think they probably didn't. They probably were not all friends following this one fateful day." So that's John Hughes' opinion. By the way, John Hughes has a cameo. Did you spot him in the movie?
I couldn't even tell you what he looks like, so unless it was glaring, no.
John Hughes appears very briefly at the end of the movie when he picks up Brian. He plays Brian's father and picks him up in the car. And
which one's Brian, real quick? Is that Anthony Michael Hall?
Anthony Michael Hall.
Okay, so no, I didn't catch it. But I thought Brian's dad was the janitor.
No.
Am I wrong? Am I way off? I might have
misunderstood something. Yeah, no, the janitor wasn't his father.
Maybe they made a joke about it, and I was like, "Oh, the janitor is his dad," or something to that effect. I don't know. But the only dad I did catch was Emilio Estevez's, because he talked about his dad, his disapproval and whatever, and he was, it's funny, I think both couples, and they happen to be in front of their parents' vehicle, giving that goodbye kiss, and their parents are just sitting there patiently, and I was like, I don't think that's how I would have done that scene. I think someone's parents would have been a little upset.
Oh yeah, I don't
kissing
think
on the car.
I don't think
While it's
Claire. Here's the thing: if Brian was kissing Allison, I think his father, being like Mr. Manly Guy, would be like, "Yeah, that's my boy.
Sure.
Yeah, you kiss her." I don't know. Like that's the kind of guy I think he is. But Claire's parents watching her kissing and giving a diamond earring. Oh, yeah. What did I say?
Brian.
Oh yeah, I meant Andrew.
Okay. I was like, I guess if Brian, but okay, go on.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Andrew's father being the, you're the tough guy. Yeah, blah. Like I
Get some.
Yeah,
Get them guts.
Mr. Testosterone or whatever.
Sure.
But Claire's mother or father or whoever was picking Claire up, watching their princess daughter,
Yeah.
making out with the with a guy like John Bender, and then giving him a diamond earring. I don't know if that would fly. I think they'd be like,
let's be honest. The guy looks like he was 25.
yes,
So
yes.
She could kind of pull off teenager, but like, who's this adult male grown up she's making out with and handing jewelry to?
If
Like,
I
am I just
were,
gonna let him go while I'm in my car?
I got two daughters. If I'm picking my daughters up and they're not high school age yet, but if I'm picking my high school age daughter up, and if I see a really nice looking guy start to make out with my daughter on the car, I'm going to be getting out and being like, "Yo, buddy, what do you think you're doing?" So much less a John Bender.
I'm sitting right here. I'm right here.
Oh, I said we were going to wrap it up with this, but I do have one more thing I wanted to talk about, and that's my least favorite scene.
That's fair. It's your show. Go ahead.
I want to talk about my least favorite scene. We talk about how this movie holds true. It feels real.
Yeah.
So my least favorite scene is the one scene in this movie that does not feel real. It feels so goofy and ridiculous. And that is the scene where they all decide that they're going to smoke pot in the back of the room. And here, my issue is Andrew doesn't want any parts of it. And he starts telling Bender, "Don't you light up in here. Don't you light up in here." And like, he's the last one to go back, right? He's the last one to join the group. He's sitting there being all disapproving. And eventually he goes back and joins the group. Now you could say, well, this is peer pressure. Except when we then see them again, he's getting high alone in a room with a sealed door where the rest are all out together. He went and isolated himself. So he's like, "Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right, fine, I'll join you and I will do that. But I'm going to isolate myself." And I'm like, what is going on here? And then it gets one step even more ridiculous because he screams and his voice shatters the glass and all the glass breaks. And it's like, okay, now we have left reality behind.
Yeah, and then he goes on this, he just runs and strips. Is that the scene?
Yeah. That's my
least
favorite
it's a
scene.
little off kilter. Because again, if it was peer pressure, you're gonna smoke pot with the rest of them in the library together. You're not gonna, and let me tell you, the amount of smoke that was in that room with him by himself, no, not that much smoke. Speaking of his experience of lighting up in the back of a library, not that much smoke, unless you've been doing it all day.
And are you going to tell me that Principal Vernon's not going to come in and see all the shattered glass and be like, "Hey, one of you guys broke the window"? Like,
yeah, he's not going to hear it, smell it, see it, or the glass or the smoke. They don't have vents. I mean, you're right. It does kind of stick out.
That's the one scene. Otherwise, I love this movie. But that's it. Breakfast Club, man. Breakfast Club, my favorite John Hughes movie.
Interesting. Now, John Hughes did Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, right?
He did. But the question is, here's the thing. John Hughes wrote a lot. He wrote a lot of classic 80s movies. He didn't always direct them, though. For example,
Sure.
when we talk about John Hughes movies, I mentioned Pretty in Pink. John Hughes did not direct Pretty in Pink. He wrote it, he produced it, but it was actually directed by Harold Deutsch, who went on to become Leah Thompson's husband and the father of actress Zoe Deutsch, who was just in the movie Zombieland recently, but Zombieland 2. But Harold Deutsch, I actually asked Leah Thompson, speak of a tangent, when I met Leah Thompson about a year or so ago, I asked her, she sang a song at the end of Howard the Duck that went, Howard the Duck, ain't no way to conceal it. You know, she had this old Howard the Duck song. And I asked her, I said, do you ever sing the Howard the Duck song to your husband, but change the words to Howard the Deutsch? And she said, no. She said, no, but I should start. I should start doing that.
That's fantastic. So the tangent was because I asked if it was John Hughes. So is Planes, Trains John Hughes, or is it not John Hughes?
He definitely wrote it. He definitely wrote Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I'm trying to verify that he actually directed it. He wrote National Lampoon's Vacation, did not direct it. Directed 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, She's Having a Baby, Uncle Buck, Curly Sue, and then he wrote more than you could possibly imagine.
Sure. So I got to say, probably not my favorite John Hughes film because I love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but it's up there. It's probably second, you know.
Well, there you go.
That movie, Planes and Trains.
All right, everybody. That's it. The Breakfast Club, RetroPodTastic on the Breakfast Club. You know, you take on the bull, you get the horns. So, all right. I never know where you're going to be in the composite. That's Jacob from the JtwoH channel. His details down below. Go give him a sub. Subscribe. Yeah, subscribe to him. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, everybody can find me. If not in the description, just feel free to type up in the search bar. Search me up, JtwoH, JtwoH. I'm a YouTuber. I do unboxings and reviews of some reviewer titles. Do wrestling and comics and a bunch of cool stuff, ranking videos, and above the YouTube, I've also got the Twitter and the Instagram, which are all JtwoH, and TV Time and Letterboxd, where I rate and review TV shows and movies I watched. And yeah, and most notably to this channel is I co-host the MegaPodTastic Podcast with you, Krazy Joe. And if you solely watch on YouTube, or if you're a subscriber of mine watching this because of me being on here, I highly recommend the podcast. I wouldn't put an hour of my day every week into it if I didn't recommend the podcast. So check out the podcast.
All right, everybody, go check out the JtwoH channel, give it a subscription, and keep wearing those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas with the plastic feet. Keep wearing those pajamas. Tell everyone you meet. Keep wearing those pajamas with the back door flap. Keep wearing those pajamas. Don't open it, it's a trap. Oh no, it's a trap. Some people call them bitches, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander pajamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now we're having fun. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now the song is done.